Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live post-game show slash podcast slash discussion about what's happening right now with the NBA Finals. As always, I'm joined by Coach Dave Dufour, and another blowout for a post-game show with us, Dave. What's going on here?
The Warriors. That's it, right?
Yeah.
We happen to do the post game for a lot of Warriors games, and unfortunately, they continue to blow people out. I mean, I ain't surprised, but
yeah. Well, you know what's interesting about this is I would say for about 24 minutes, it was the worst basketball I had seen the Warriors play all season long almost, and yet that was how bad the Cavaliers' defense was, I thought. And the only thing that kept them in the game was the absolute boneheaded turnovers that the Warriors consistently made for 24 minutes of the game. I mean, it was like 3 years ago.
yeah, I mean, the Warriors wound up with 20 turnovers total for the game, and they had 13 at half, something like that. I mean, 14, something like that. Yeah, that was literally the only reason the Cavs were in it, and somehow the Warriors played their worst half of basketball that we've seen, since the playoffs started, outside of the San Antonio game. They turned the ball over like crazy. They really weren't hitting shots, and they were still up 3 points.
Right. Now,
so, yeah.
Yeah, and so if we go even quarter by quarter, what you'll see here is in the first quarter, if I'm looking at the right game here, I'm not looking at the right game, am I? Because in the second quarter, no, this is the right game. The first quarter, they laid 40 on him, right? Yeah, 40, sorry. And then the second quarter, 27. So they were on pace for just lighting them up. And, the third quarter, they were also on their way. They got 35. And, no matter, even though they were turning the ball over, when they weren't, the Cavaliers' rotations were bad, just like we had said all year. And their transition defense is really a problem. And I could understand how, Tyronn Lue would say, you know what, we're professionals. We're not going to waste time in a practice going over how to get back in transition. But to be honest with you, it kind of looks like they need to do that. They don't pick up the ball early enough. They don't pick up the other men who are filling the lanes. It's really weird.
It looks like they're a little bit overdue for doing that. They needed to do this in the middle of the season when it was apparent that their transition defense was going to be a problem. I really think that they expected to flip a switch once the playoffs started. You and I have been, one of the few couple people that have said, hey, it's harder than just saying, now I'm going to try hard. Right? There's more to it. This was more than just an effort thing. And, yeah, they're just not bringing it. I mean, it's bad. It's not fun. It wasn't fun to watch. I mean, it was fun to watch the Warriors explode, but I just felt myself getting sad for LeBron because he literally is out there playing mostly by himself. Kevin Love was actually decent tonight. He had some really great defensive possessions, but it doesn't matter because if he does a good job, they'll just give the ball to somebody else who's got a weak defender on. I don't know. It's sad. It's sad. I really feel bad.
I mean, there was a moment when at the end there where Kevin Durant backdoored him and dunked. And I had it on Vine or on Twitter where he just kind of sulks. He's just or he just puts his head down because, he played well. LeBron James was the only guy from the Cavs that really came to play. Although, I'm sorry, Kevin Love also played well. We can talk about that for a second because there is a nugget of hope for the Cavaliers and what they found. But LeBron James was all-time LeBron. He had some moves and he had ability to score that nobody had any hope of stopping. But they couldn't stop the other side. The biggest concern I would almost think here is that, hey, guess what? Klay Thompson might be finding his way out of his hole. And if that's the case, let's quickly look at his thing. He went 8 for 12, 4 for 7 from 3.
From deep.
Yeah, for 22 points.
He had a game high plus 24. Not only that, but so it looked like he was feeling confident.
Yeah.
And he also was still playing this fantastic defense he's been playing. So, yeah, I mean, this is trouble. This is trouble for the Cavs, but it was trouble before the series started.
Yeah. Now, so let's talk a little bit about what Love was doing that worked really well because this is the nugget of hope here, I suppose, is that so normally, Kevin Love has gotten so used to picking and popping and either getting that shot or like a shot fake sidestep three-pointer, right? And he was doing that a little bit in the game one, too. But they clearly adjusted their pick and roll to have him screen and then dive to the basket. And that was really hurting the Warriors early on. Now, later on, when they tried to go down low to him on Durant like we had shown in video after podcast and talked about it, he's got that wiry strength. Kevin Love cannot back him down. It's weird, but he can't do it. And he got that shot just packed back in his face, and then Durant comes right back down and scores. So, like, Love is not as effective as they need him to be, and I don't see how it's possible. He played as well as he's going to play, right?
Yeah, he's better than Tristan Thompson in this series. Tristan Thompson, 22 minutes in the first game, had 21 tonight, another 4 rebounds, right? Like, people keep asking, why isn't he on the court? Because he's not doing the one thing that he's out there to do. He's not rebounding. Kevin Love had 4 offensive rebounds tonight, and I don't think he hit all of his putbacks, but I know he hit a couple. And so, that's what you need Kevin Love to be doing. He kind of needs to go in and do the dirty work a little bit when the jump shot's not falling. And like you said, if he can get a switch and a seal on Curry or on Klay Thompson, although Klay Thompson has done a decent job the few times he's been switched on him. Yeah. But he's got to get really, really deep on Klay. And he can get some easier buckets, but nothing's coming easy against the Warriors. And to be honest with you, it's going to take more than just LeBron doing what he did tonight and Kevin Love putting up, what did he do? 27 points. Kyrie Irving had 19. The issue, once again, just like we said the other night, they get no production from anyone who isn't named LeBron James, Kevin Love, and Kyrie Irving.
Right.
That's the problem.
And why is that? Now, Shumpert gave him a little bit of life. I'm kind of curious to check out what he had right now real quick. Shumpert ended up with 6 points. There was a moment there and he didn't shoot well. He only had 1 field goal. It felt like he had a couple in there, but either way,
he just hit the long 2.
Okay, but and I guess he got a rebound and got to the basket, missed it, and Kevin Love put it in. But either way, and here's the problem: is I think it's a function of the Cavaliers' philosophy and their offense. Is when you run a good offense, that's for your role players. And the best offense that the Cavaliers run are isolations. And so when those aren't going or a couple guys are out and they got to rest LeBron, whatever, there's nothing that generates them good looks in rhythm. And that's a real big problem. And now you cut to the Warriors, and their offense is full of that. So much movement, so much passing. Everyone's touching the ball. There is rhythm there for everybody, and they can feed off of that. By the way, low-key triple-double by Steph Curry. And he was battling.
But he didn't have a good game.
What's that?
He didn't have a good game. Steph didn't have a good game. He had some really, really terrible turnovers. Some of them that were momentum killers. He had 2 really, really bad ones in a row when the Cavs were actually able to get the game down to about, 4 points. And, yeah, that's just that stuff he needs to cut out of his game. He had done well the whole playoffs, and, you pointed it out in your video. He shaved a full turnover off per game. And he really was making a habit out of protecting the ball. Tonight, he was the bad Steph Curry with the basketball. Now, that being said, grabbing 10 rebounds, he's a great rebounder, super underrated as a rebounder. And he of course, his jumper, he was hitting some deep shots. So, yeah. I guess bad game. It's bad by Steph Curry standards, I should say.
And so I tried to talk about that on Twitter a little bit because this happens once in a blue moon, like every 4 weeks or 5 weeks, whatever it is, where he didn't get enough sleep or something's bothering him. You can just see that on his face he's not engaged. He's distracted. And the only reason why it stands out is because 90% of the time he is so locked in with that Neo from the Matrix face where he's serene and he is in the moment. And you could just tell right from the bat that he was off. However, he battled through, and he had one that I didn't point out on the video, but they got LeBron onto him, or he was guarding LeBron down low, and LeBron was trying to seal him, and he side fronted him and took away the position, and they couldn't throw it to him, and eventually Kyrie got it and scored on an ISO, but that's the kind of strength. He doesn't let guys really pin him down and keep him down low behind, underneath the block. And it's I can't keep telling people how good I think he is on defense, and they just don't want to believe me. And I think it's just his appearance, unfortunately.
It is his appearance. He looks small. He's 6'3", but what people don't realize, he actually squats more than anybody on the team. I think he might deadlift more than anyone on the team. And he's small, but he's strong. This is how he's rehabbed from all these ankle injuries and things like that. And honestly, at this point, you should not have to be defending his defense. It is apparent.
Right.
People are still they're gonna show one play where he misses a rotation or whatever, and they're gonna point that out. But no, the guy is a good defender.
Yeah, and that happens. He got caught. Kyrie got a three on a ridiculous bounce on the right corner, and he went on the high side of that pin down, and then that became a scrum, and they're not going to call that whatever. So I get it, and he had a couple of doozies in game one as well, but he had four really good ones in game one. So he is more than doing what he needs to do on the defensive end, and so I think that we got that one off game from him in the series. I don't think he has two of those in a 7-game series. And, if you factor in that Klay, so again, like we said earlier, the biggest concern the Cavs, I think, had all series long was what if Klay Thompson starts making his shots? And here we are, folks, a blowout. And even though they cut it to 3 and 4, I was talking to you on the DM. I'm like, this game is over because the Cavaliers defense could not stop them. And once they push it up, even at 65, 70% speed, and they push it up, you can see how open that defense gets. There's so many holes. Ian Clark, anybody can get in there and generate something. It's a problem.
I'll tell you the other thing is that all of this isolation offense is allowing the Warriors to get a rest on defense. Those guys that are playing off ball, they're catching a break, and this is working against the Cavaliers. The Warriors are already a team. They're smart about rest. I mean, Durant played 41 minutes tonight, but that was because Draymond had all those fouls.
Right.
But they're normally, even in the finals, they're playing, they play like 34, 35 minutes. And when you're a team, like LeBron James just looked like he was beat by the middle of the third quarter. And when you're trying to rest and, you're trying to conserve energy, and LeBron has to do everything on his own, and you're allowing the defensive guys who are off the ball to rest. Well, they're ready to run, and what are you going to do? You're going to have to run to get back. LeBron never got a break. He had been out for 1 minute of the game when they pulled him with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Right.
He had already played all but 1 minute, and that's just unsustainable. And I don't know the fix for the Cavs. Like, I don't think there is a fix for this series. Like, this series is done. To me, it was done before it started.
Yeah.
But what they're doing offensively is just not challenging the Warriors at all.
I agree. I think that, yeah. So the isolations are kind of playing into their hands, right? And I think that every bucket that LeBron scores is it's not a win for the Warriors, but it just means that nobody else is getting going. He's not doing what he's so great at, which is passing the ball, whipping it around, and generating open looks for his teammates. And that becomes the whole downhill effect that gets the Cavaliers in these games. But yeah, again, if it's the philosophy on defense, they haven't worked on it all year long. They've kind of relied on the fact that they'd get better, and that's what's bothered me, because I think we can all agree that obviously the Warriors are a more talented team, and they're better. They probably should win and will win the series, but it's when you come into a series and you're not organized defensively and you get to the finals, that's what's frustrating. You shouldn't be allowed to get that deep with all these issues, and nobody wanted. Well, I mean, some people listened to us, but a lot of people didn't. Right? A lot of people did not want to listen to us since February when we're talking about it.
I've been called crazy for saying the Warriors are going to sweep. And now everyone's crawling out of the woodwork saying, well, it looks like the Warriors are just going to sweep. And now, to me, that was a boring prediction because the Warriors should sweep. They're that much better than the Cavs. I mean, they really are. This is a totally different team than last year.
It is. And so, and the best player on the floor by like leaps and bounds is Kevin Durant. I mean, the guy, I argued on Twitter, I said, he is actually the best player on the floor if you ignore his offense. He had a couple of contested jump shots for other players that he had to be somewhere nearby and could get over there quick and get a hand up and force the miss. I mean, that's just next level aggression and energy on defense from him. And now he's coming back down, shooting a high percentage. I mean, let me go check. What did he end up shooting tonight?
Tonight he was 13 out of 22, 4 of 8 from deep. Only went to the free throw line 3 times, which actually he should have probably shot about 10 free throws.
Yeah.
Had 13 rebounds, 6 assists after having 8 in the first game. And I told you, I think his assist numbers are more important than his scoring numbers because that means that they're really firing on all cylinders. And go with 3 steals and 5 blocks. He had 3 turnovers, which is fine for as much as he had the ball. I mean, he was fantastic. I mean, he's the MVP.
Yeah. Oh, no question. And he was playing for the game ball tonight, the MVP, whatever you want to say, because it was an incredible performance and gave them that lift. The only time he actually missed some shots was in that clunker in the middle where they were turning the ball over. He started to turn the ball over. He had one, I think, that was just like a Curry bad one. They all kind of got in their heads for a minute, and it happens. But again, I don't think it's going to happen again. So I think the worry here, or for the Cavaliers fans, is that does Draymond get into foul trouble again? Like maybe one more game, but I don't think it's going to be in multiple games of that. And he was so good even when he was only playing 24 minutes defensively again that there's just too much stuff, and it's really the defense. There's too much defense for the Warriors. The Cavaliers, I don't think, can overcome it.
I'll tell you the other thing. The Warriors, the last couple seasons, Draymond Green was the only guy on this team that had like a killer instinct that was like you could see it on the court. Steph may have it, but you couldn't see it. You couldn't feel it. Not the same way that you can with Draymond.
Right.
Well, Kevin Durant has that. Kevin Durant wants to embarrass you every time he touches the basketball or anytime he's guarding you. He wants to, like that block when he blocked Kevin Love. He barked something at him, and it's one of those times where I wish that like they mic'd up every player because I want to know what he said because he was feeling himself when he did that too.
Yeah.
And I really want to know what he said when he blocked that shot because then he came down and he just he drove through the basket, fought through multiple fouls. And just took it right to the hoop. And then, of course, Ty Lue calls a timeout. But I want to know what he barked at Kevin Love because that's something I think they didn't have, especially last season. Draymond, it's hard for one guy to just be that guy. Having Durant, that's that next level. And he's just been special.
I'm very, 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 very impressed with him. How he's, he'd been to the finals once before as a younger player, but just the way he's come in and just commanded the spotlight. He was just fantastic tonight. And there's no answer for that, just like there was no answer for it in the regular season. And again, people didn't really want to listen to us back then. But there's enough evidence why we play these games during the first 82 games of the season. There's a reason for that. And so the only thing I find frustrating because it's fun to watch when the ball's moving and they're showing good teamwork and making shots, but you just kind of wish that the Cleveland Cavaliers can put together a better plan. But I don't think I have any faith in the fact that they're going to improve their transition defense with a couple of practices. Do you?
No, it's personnel as well. If you're relying on defensive minutes from Richard Jefferson, he's like 55 years old, and Channing Frye, who's in his mid-40s. Darren Williams, he's getting too many minutes. They need to do to him what they did to Delly last year in the finals, where they really cut his minutes back because he just wasn't good. I just don't know how you fill those minutes. You look at their roster. Shumpert played 22 minutes, and that's about right for him. J.R. Smith only played 14, but he was terrible tonight in those 14 minutes. So there is no fix on this team that's currently on the roster. This is going to be, I tweeted this out, and I don't feel this way, and I think it would be a mistake. But this will be the summer where we hear the Cavs should trade Kyrie. It won't be trade Love like it has been the last two summers. It's going to be the trade Kyrie summer because he's been bad in the last two games. People are going to completely forget about what he did against Boston those last couple games or what he did all season. And they're going to say, well, look, he didn't show up in the playoffs, and you're going to get your hot take artists, and that's going to be their thing. LeBron needs help. LeBron needs to win now. His window's closing. Blah blah blah. No, Kyrie is still a good basketball player. What you need is a better supporting cast. You need to fill out that bench with players who could play, preferably players who are not on their last legs. It's tough to do because it's a salary cap league. And you've got LeBron, who's making a ton of money. You've got Kevin Love making a ton of money. Kyrie making a ton of money. I get it. Tristan Thompson making a ton of money. And so, but I expect about by the time the draft happens, you're going to start hearing the trade Kyrie buzz. It's not going to actually happen. It's not going to be like, GMs or agents talking about it. It's just going to be people on Twitter and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's going to happen. And he has been bad the last two games.
Yeah. Well, so that's the question here is, what is up with Tristan Thompson? Why is he not the singular force he had been the last two finals? Why is he not grabbing a lot of offensive boards, blocking some shots? and grabbing boards in the defensive end. I suppose I got to really look at it because it just gets away from my mind's eye when I'm looking at it. But I have to imagine a lot of it has to do with Draymond is probably really focusing on it, and then I think that Kevin Durant swooping in and grabbing these rebounds with long arms that a guy like maybe Harrison Barnes just never did.
That's exactly what it is. They seem to have focused. I mean, there's a reason Kevin Love got 21 rebounds in the first game. You know, they weren't as worried about his rebounding. I think I don't know why. Like maybe they feel like they can rotate if he gets an offensive rebound or whatever. But they really have fought to send two guys to Tristan Thompson on every offensive rebound opportunity. I noticed that tonight, and I think that's smart. I mean, obviously in the first two games he's been a complete non-factor. What I don't get is, you know, if he's not going to be out there, well, then why don't you have Channing Frye? And when Channing Frye's out there against a traditional center, why isn't he running a pick and pop every single time? Right. JaVale was out there for a few minutes tonight, matched up against Channing Frye, and Frye was rolling to the basket. That's not good basketball. That's terrible. You want to drag JaVale away from the basket, and Channing Frye's a good three-point shooter. So,
well, you know, and that's the other thing is, so they were working on it with Love, right? We want you to roll the basket, and that was working. And maybe they were like doing the rotations, and Frye was also doing the same, drills with him. I mean, because it was a pick and roll when Frye got his shot blocked at the rim, I think, right? Embarrassingly by Iguodala. Great block. And here's the problem. Like, I want to do a breakdown on, ultimately on this game is going to be like, what the Warriors were doing because they're the ones who won. But it is going to be a little bit maddening because you're right. Like, what they're running on offense doesn't make much sense. And we've seen this before with LeBron teams, like when he was with Miami, and they would struggle in those finals against the Spurs. It was like, what are they running? No coach would ever call that, and that becomes the thing where, who is calling these plays and who is in charge and who is not. And that's.
I'm not going to speculate.
What's that?
I'm not going to speculate.
You're not going to speculate? All right. Well, I mean, I don't have to speculate about, when he was, younger in his career in the first round with Mike Brown in Cleveland. But again, with Tyronn Lue, I don't know. But you have to wonder what's going on out there and how these things are going because they were running the high post split and they got a couple of nice baskets out of that. But then it just goes away for possession after possession. And it's like, what are you doing? Here's a good question, from Mr. MMA on Twitter asks, how do the Cavs manufacture 120 points? That's what they need to score in order to win. Dave?
Well, first of all is running better offense. I think trying to get easier looks would help. And then, capitalizing on those opportunities. Tonight, they shot 45% from the field, so not bad, but they were 8 of 29 from 3. You and I, we talked about the fact that the three-point shooting that they were experiencing so far in the playoffs was unsustainable against Golden State because Golden State is so much better at closing out on shooters. They're so much better at rotating and all these other things, and it's showing thus far. So I just think they've got to manufacture better looks instead of running everything off of a pick and roll. It's time to get some motion in your offense. Right.
Now, that said, of their, let's see, how many threes did they miss? They went 8 for 29, so they missed 21. I bet you 10 of those were wide open threes that were good looks. Right now I could think of Darren Williams had at least one of those, and I know Kevin Love had a couple too. So, but again, and then that comes the thing where back when the Cavaliers were stopping the other teams, and we were saying, look at how many open shots they're getting. Well, they were arguing, the defense is making it hard, so when you finally do get open, it's not really an open shot, and that didn't really ring true to me for the Cavaliers defense, but with the Warriors defense, I could feel that. It's a hassle, it's hard, you're under pressure, and then all of a sudden you get open. Well, that's a totally different weird feeling to have after not being open for so long. And so that contributes, I think, to the misses of the wide open shots. But again, like we talked about, they need more of the high post splits. Get the ball to LeBron in the high post. Let Love and Kyrie, whoever, split on the strong side. But by the way, why not run horns? Why not get Kevin Love with the ball on the elbow? Can we ever get one of those again?
No. That's the answer. They look, the isolation stuff got them here. And you and I talked about this. I told you, it was like every scoring possession they had in the first 4 games against Boston was isolation. And it was insane. I was shocked that it was all isolation or pick and roll. And they are riding, and LeBron said it after game 1. They're going with what got them there. And, it's not working against the superior defensive team. What a shock.
Yep. It's yeah. Now I just saw a question on Periscope. I can't grab it. Who said it? But are they out of shape? Are the Cavaliers out of shape, or is it something else?
I don't believe that. I think they're tired. Like LeBron's been playing 40 minutes a night since November.
Yeah.
That's an issue. I like people can pretend like it's not, but that is a problem. Like we have documented this. There's an entire field of sports science that's all about that. And, like this is a real thing. Fatigue exists. And I just think he's tired. And he is the only one who's playing well. So imagine how the rest of those guys feel.
Yeah. And we've been, I remember when Mark Jackson pointed it out tonight when he looked tired and they had a close-up of him. I think there was like 2 minutes before that where I had seen it. He looked tired already. So, yeah, listen, I mean, the other bigger context here is that he's in pieces of the 7th straight NBA Finals. And so, anybody is going to be exhausted at the end of this thing. And that's the thing. So that's what I guess another part of the frustrating part is that they don't seem to have much else that could utilize the gravity of their other players like Kyrie and Love well enough to let him have a break or to let him be a spot-up player and be great at that for, 10 possessions a game to give him a break. If it's not him on top leading it, then they're simply they got nothing else.
Well, right now, yeah. I mean, if this is the Kyrie we're going to get for the next 2 games, then I expect similar results.
Yeah. We have an interesting question here about the coaching from Cole Strong. He says, I think coaching is one of the biggest issues for the Cavs team. Do you guys agree? Dave?
I don't disagree.
Okay.
It's a tricky question to answer because we don't know if there's a disconnect between what's being right. taught, what's being game planned, and then what's happening on the court. And now that in and of itself could be a failure. If they're not actually executing the game plan, then that's a failure.
I agree.
I think the coaching has to be an issue.
Yes. Well, yeah, right. Because either way, it looks bad on the coaching staff. Either they're not saying it, and then they are, and they're not doing it, or they're saying it and they're telling them to do it and they're not listening. Right. Either way, it's a bad sign for the Warriors, or for the Cavs. So I'm going to be a little bit more harsh. I feel like it is a failing of the Cavs coaching, and part of me feels like when you're coaching a team with LeBron James, you have to give away a lot of your power. He gets to decide a lot of things, and if that's the case, then they're missing some stuff. Like we have to work on our transition defense, and we have to work on our half-court defense overall, because they simply don't seem to be organized enough. And that's just the biggest frustration I've had, is that you can't make it to the finals, and you should never be able to make it to the finals without a cohesive and coherent defense that's on the same page. Maybe that's the breakdown I'll do tomorrow or for tonight. It's just
why the East is so terrible.
Why what?
Why the East is so terrible.
Right, they're not getting.
That's the reality. You know what? And this is what nobody's saying right now when they're complaining about the quality. Oh man, we've got these super teams. Really, we have one super team. The Warriors are the super team.
Right.
The Cavs are at the next notch down with the Spurs, and then the West has a bunch of competitive teams. Like I don't know that the Rockets would be this bad against the Warriors. I mean, they would maybe be similar. But it wouldn't be like if the Warriors were playing the Atlanta Hawks,
right,
or the Wizards. Those teams they're just bad, and the Cavs get to coast all the way through the regular season and the playoffs. Honestly, the conspiracy theory that they tanked to take the number 2 seed so they wouldn't play the Wizards, it looks more and more real.
Yeah.
With every game they play against the Warriors, it looks more realistic that they just didn't want to play the Wizards, and so. What no one's talking about is why is the East so bad? They get all these lottery teams. There's good players there. What is going on in the East?
Okay, and by the way, and that also comes up in the greater context of on Twitter. People are complaining about the Warriors and super team, yada yada. But isn't it the Warriors' job to create the best team they can? And and there's like one guy on there in particular who is like completely out of his gourd about it, and like how dare they do that? And it's all the Kevin Durant's fault that he joined the Warriors. But it's like, no, the Warriors, that's their job, and it's the job of every other GM to build a better team or to build a team that can compete. And if you don't think you can, then why are you in this business? Like that's what I don't understand. Like I know, okay, maybe Phoenix and whatever, they're all rebuilding and stuff like that. But if you're not in it to win it, then and not looking at how you can maximize and make it more efficient, then geez, it's you shouldn't be playing.
The Phoenix Suns feel like they've been in a rebuild for since Barkley left, basically.
Right.
I guess since D'Antoni was fired. Let's put it that way.
Let me ask you this: do the Rockets beat the Cavs in the finals?
I think it's a good series.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance. I think the Spurs beat them. I think the Spurs beat them in 5 or 6 games.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely feel that way because they have enough bodies to guard. Well, I mean, who do they have to guard LeBron? They have Kawhi, if he's healthy, obviously. Danny Green, I guess, sort of. Jonathan
Simmons. Danny Green hasn't shown that he can do anything. Jonathan Simmons is probably strong enough to hang with LeBron a little bit, but Kawhi can guard the hell out of LeBron.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that might be enough. It's nice when you have another guy like a Boris Diaw they don't have. So that would be interesting. But the Rockets, I mean, I'm trying to think who the Rockets would guard. Who would they guard? Ariza? Yeah, maybe. I have to look at that. I wonder how well he'd do.
Yeah, that would be tricky. I mean, like LeBron is going to get his.
Yeah.
I mean, as evidenced against the Warriors, and they're throwing Draymond at him. They're throwing Kevin Durant. He was 12 of 18 tonight, and he was walking to the basket.
Yeah,
he was getting everything he wanted. So, like, LeBron is going to do his thing as far as scoring goes, and I love that the way he came out tonight. Like, I thought he was fantastic, but again, he's getting no help. I mean, outside of Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving just looks bad. And the rest of those guys out there just can't play. Like, I mean, LeBron is on the same level as the Warriors. Kevin Love is proving he can play with them, and nobody else is showing up.
Well, listen, Kyrie Irving has had his moments. He really played well on a lot of possessions, offensively. Defensively not so much. I mean, I caught him again on one, just jogging back, and then in the middle of all their turnover flurry. Curry didn't try and throw a nice bounce pass that would have whizzed right by LeBron's foot. Okay, I get it. But it was only because, Kyrie's just jogging back. He's not looking at the ball. He doesn't know where the man's cutting behind him. That's frustrating. And I liked Kyrie. I liked his defense in the finals last year. There was a lot of moments. Now, okay, so the question here is, you're still stuck with the notion of a sweep. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a sweep.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, what have we seen in the last 2 games to make you feel that the Cavs can possibly win a game?
Right. And nothing. And also in the context of, for 20 minutes, we saw terrible basketball by the Warriors. Terrible. And they should have been down by a lot of points, and they're not. And it reminds me of Richard Jefferson was talking about before the game how we're not going to change, we're going to run. And and then he had this really weird kind of like rationalization in the postgame where I think he said, well, let's just say we don't turn over 20 times, we only turn it over 12, and then the Warriors, don't turn it over 4, they turn it over like 8 or 9 or whatever. We'll be up by 10 points. And I was like, wait a minute, that math wouldn't even work anyway. And woulda, coulda, shoulda. Maybe it's an even game at that point, the way he described it. So that's the other question. If we got some hubris here going on, then the Cavaliers don't know how desperate this is, or don't have the ability to look in themselves and say, geez, we really got to do something here to change our fortunes.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the one chance they have, and this is where I think KD is a difference maker. Game 3 is historically that home team comes out, a lot of energy, and you wind up with the home team stealing that third game. Or you could wind up, after 2 horrific blowouts, maybe they come out with too much energy and they fall a little flat. Or you've got KD and Draymond and they come out ready to step on the throat. And I think that it's a game where the Cavs just have to play as close to perfect as they can, and they have to force the Warriors to play as bad as they did in the first half tonight. They have to capitalize on it.
Right.
But I just don't see it happening. I just think the Warriors are too good.
And fair enough. And I also think that the Warriors, I mean, like at home in Cleveland, the Cavaliers should have the ability to control the pace a little bit more. They also should probably shoot a little bit better, which those two things kind of go hand in hand. So that's the one thing that they need to be wary of. They're going to need to have. I mean, I kind of want to say they're going to have LeBron have a LeBron game and then have either Kyrie or Love have a transcendent game. But you know what? Kevin Love had that game tonight, kind of 27 and 7. Kyrie had 19 and 7. So those are Kevin Love's game is about as good as he's going to give you as far as output goes. So yeah, I think it's too much. I would say this. I don't know how many games. I kept saying 6. Maybe it's 5. But either way, I felt like this game was the most important one for the Cavaliers. If they didn't get this one, then the series is over. It's just a question of how many games. And although again, we can't even ignore, or we can ignore the 3-1 lead that was blown last year because of 2 words, right? Kevin freaking Durant.
I agree. I think it's the difference.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, we could sing his praises. His line tonight: 33 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 5 blocks.
Yeah, 5 blocks.
That's a killer.
Yeah.
He's a killer.
And an untold amount of contests. He might have had 3 or 4 more contests of shots. Did he have any steals? I mean, I feel like
he had 3 steals.
Yeah, and 3 steals. I mean, it's like, Jesus. So yeah, that is the difference. There is no answer, and we'll have to see. Well, you never know, but it definitely feels like this is a shorter than a longer series. But hey, we'll keep our eye out on Wednesday to see what they do. And again, let's see some of that coaching stuff, Tyronn Lue. Come out and show us a little bit more. We saw a little bit with the Kevin Love adjustment of the roll to the basket that helped them. What's the next thing? And also, what's the next thing you're going to do on defense to adjust? Because that's the big concern.
I wonder if another thing we hear this summer, maybe some rumblings about Tyronn Lue. If this series goes the way that I expect and that you expect, and we don't see any adjustments because we haven't seen it yet, even in-game adjustments, like when things aren't working, they don't change. They just keep doing the same thing. Like they're not coming out of. I mean, they're after timeout stuff. It feels like the Warriors could just only score on after timeouts and side out of bounds and still win these games, and the Cavs don't take advantage of that in the same way. And this is where coaches make their money. It's not when LeBron gets a rebound and goes coast to coast. Like that has nothing to do with the coach. That's all LeBron. Right now, Ty Lue is basically just ridden LeBron all the way to the finals, twice in a row.
I did a really cool breakdown on that in the first finals when they went up, and I showed all the out-of-bounds plays. And, the Warriors were at an elite level of efficiency on those. The Cavaliers were, below average. And I argued that they went to – that was in the 6-game series. It was really close. If they had just done a little bit better than that, and then when you looked at what they ran out of timeouts, it was so rudimentary in a lot of ISOs. If they had just been a little bit better there, they might have made it to a 7th game, and then who knows what would have happened. And so we've seen that bread and butter has been there for the Warriors. And you're right, that is a really good sign for coaches. But what I would be a little bit surprised if they got rid of him because he's won a title, he's got him in the finals, yada yada. But it's a problem that I think exists for any LeBron team. And, LeBron, if he had played for Pop, it probably would be a little bit different. But there's not a lot of those coaches that can actually do that and get in there and tell LeBron, really tell him and really control that team.
Yeah, I mean, Greg Popovich maybe.
Yep.
But that's about it.
Right. Maybe Phil. So
maybe.
Well, another great live show in the books across all the YouTubes and the Periscopes, and we'll have it as a podcast early tomorrow morning. So fantastic stuff. Cannot wait. I'll have a video out coming up, ASAP, so stay tuned for that. When's the game? It's on Wednesday, right?
It is Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay, so we get a Wednesday, Friday. Finally, get only one game in between, one day in between games coming up, so that'd be exciting. But either way, we'll be right back here, right, for another post-game show on Wednesday night. And our podcast and more. So, awesome stuff. So stick around, everybody. Stay with us and follow Dave and follow me on Twitter, and we'll get some more analysis there. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Dave?
Yes, I am.